right, so what we're going to be going over today is our different cycles. So we're going to go over carbon cycle, water cycle, and the nitrogen cycle. So water cycle we don't see too much of in biology, but we're going to really focus on those carbon cycles and the nitrogen cycle. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over carbon first. So when we're talking about the carbon cycle, carbon's really important. Everything that is organic or living is made out of carbon. And so, it's really important to have carbon cycling through the atmosphere. That way new life can be created. So first, let's go ahead and start with the atmosphere. The atmosphere is our biggest reservoir. Okay, so it has a lot of CO2, so it has a lot of carbon dioxide. Okay, so the reason why that's important is that combined with the sunlight and the ocean exchange, our carbon dioxide is going to be absorbed by maybe algae that's in the ocean as well as plants. Okay, so plants we know use CO2. Okay, so as plants absorb CO2, photosynthesis is going to occur. So that's the big converter for bringing in carbon from the air into terrestrial life. Okay, so plants are going to do photosynthesis. They're going to take in the carbon dioxide, and then these plants are eaten by animals. Okay. So those animals are going to go through a process called cellular respiration. So respiration releases carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. And so these are the two biggest processes, photosynthesis and respiration, that will exchange our carbon dioxide. And so with respiration, CO2 is released back into that atmosphere. Okay? So either way, okay, so even if carbon dioxide isn't released or the plants don't get eaten, if both of those things die, then we have our dead organism. At that point, then over a period of time, those dead organisms can become our fossil fuels. And so our fossil fuels, the reason why that's a problem is because we've been over-harvesting our fossil fuels. And so we've been using them for cars, for factories, things like that. And so what that's doing is it's increasing the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So now we have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than would normally be natural. So this cycle continues over and over and over again. And so this is how carbon is going to be cycled through the atmosphere. Let's go ahead and look at our water cycle. Okay, so water cycle, y'all know this. Y'all have been going over this since elementary school. Okay, so water cycle. Okay, so if we start up here with our condensation, condensation is going to be things like rain, snow, hail, okay, stuff like that. Those are different types of precipitation. So when precipitation happens, that's going to happen on land. Okay, so even if it's in the water, okay, eventually you're going to have some sort of collection, you're going to have some sort of runoff, so at some point, because of this cycle, those water particles will hit the land. And so when you have runoff, it's going to go into the ocean or a lake or, some other body of water. From there, okay, it's going to evaporate. Okay, so during the process of evaporation, liquid turns to gas. All right. And so the heat of the sun will enhance that evaporation, and so now we have these gas water molecules in the sky, and so again the process can start. So gas will turn to liquid during condensation, and then it will rain or snow or hail, and the process will happen over and over again. Okay, so like I said, the water cycle we don't talk about too much, but just know that it's there. So our last one. Okay, and this one is actually probably the most important one that you're going to see in freshman bio, is our nitrogen cycle. Okay, so with our nitrogen cycle, we're going to learn that we need nitrogen. Okay, so all organisms that are living and they need to produce their own molecules need nitrogen. So we know that most of the nitrogen on Earth is in the atmosphere. Okay, so most of it's in the atmosphere, just like carbon. All right. So what ends up happening, how this comes from the atmosphere down into the ground, is that lightning is going to be one of those things that makes nitrogen into a usable form. Okay, so it's going to form nitric acid. Okay, and we can't use nitric acid. Okay, so nitric acid by itself is unusable. Okay, so nitric acid is unusable by itself. Okay, so what ends up happening is when you have nitric acid come to the ground, you have bacteria. Okay, so these bacteria are found on the roots of legumes, and they're going to fix the nitrogen into a usable form. Okay, so you have nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so our plants do need nitrogen. If you look at the back of fertilizer bags, they're going to have nitrogen there. And so the plants are going to take that nitrogen from the atmosphere, and they're going to be fixing nitrogen using those bacteria. Okay, so this is a symbiotic relationship. This is mutualism. The bacteria are getting nutrients and they're getting housed by the plant, and then the roots of the plant are gaining nitrogen, which they need to grow. So from here, okay, we have other bacteria that will continue to convert that nitrogen. Okay, so that way the plants can use it. Okay, so again, nitrogen, nitrogen fixing bacteria, really, really important. Okay, having those bacteria are extremely important. And so right here, this first process we call nitrogen fixation. Okay. The second process is called denitrification. Okay, these two right here are the most important things for the nitrogen cycle. Okay, so if you don't remember anything else, okay, remember that it's the bacteria that cause this to happen. Okay, so bacteria are the ones that cause nitrogen fixation, okay, and denitrification. All right, so this is a mutualistic relationship. So after that, okay, so the plants are consumed. So the plants are going to have nitrogen. Animals eat the plants and they get the nitrogen. Again, same thing as the carbon cycle. If they die, nitrogen is going to be released back into the atmosphere. Okay, and then the process will start all over again. All right, so just remember, for the nitrogen cycle, it's the bacteria that do the nitrogen fixation and denitrification. So this is the last thing that you needed to go over before your test. Your test will be on Tuesday, and so we'll do some review activities before then. Let me know if you have any questions.